So with that, I just wanted to give a little introduction about the meeting tonight. We appreciate our guest speakers coming in. Our first speaker is going to come up tonight. Roger Johnson is currently the chair of the Deerfield Township Lenawee County Planning Commission. He's a member of the Joint 2 Region Planning Commission. He's a secretary and treasurer of Our Home, Our Voice, Incorporated. The group's purpose is to work to keep decisions about land use local, whether sand and gravel extraction, utility scales, wind, solar, battery storage, short-term rentals, carbon sequestration, etc. Help me welcome Roger Johnson.
Thank you, Mike. Before I start, a personal note, I'm thrilled to see Channel 10 here, and somebody is doing a videotape, is that correct? Would you send a copy of that to my wife? I left the house tonight in Deerfield and said I was going to a church meeting, and she thinks I'm sitting over at Jerry's at the bar, so if we could have some proof, I'd deeply appreciate it. Back probably about a year ago, some of us that have been veterans of discussions about siting of industrial scale wind or solar started hearing that the legislature was going to look at some bills to take away the siting authority that a zoning board, a township, a city has over those kinds of land uses. So we formed a group called Our Home, Our Voice. It's 501c4. We engaged a PR agency in Lansing. We engaged a lobbyist. And our effort was directed at trying to help assure that these bills in the format that were unworkable for us in siting industrial scale power plants, that those gave consideration to local units and local unique scenarios. So we went to work on talking to legislators, talking to people involved, and we came close. If you followed it, the last two sessions were almost 18-hour days, I think, as they worked hard to, as the leadership and the folks that proposed the local control, removing local control for renewables to get it through. They worked hard to address some of the reluctant folks of the party that was pushing it and the governor. We had 5 commitments to say no, and one by one, each one of those dropped. So the bills went through. That changes our purpose. We formed a committee to work on a ballot initiative. And given that there is a public act, it's PA 233, that affects siting of batteries, windmills, solar panels on an industrial scale, we've got a bill to focus on, and we're working towards a ballot initiative. The way the bills were passed, the Legislative Service Group did a great job. There's literally 4 pieces that you would have to try to address to get this rescinded. We've got what we are told is one of the best law firms in the state, an attorney with 30 years experience at ballot initiatives, crafting language right now. And at that, I'm going to stop, because to say more at this point before we've got everything absolutely tied down would really be inappropriate. The opposition, the folks that are in favor of handing these decisions to the Public Service Commission, are going to examine every step we take with a microscope in an effort to keep it off the ballot. Just like we've examined every step in the legislative process to find a mistake to see if we can have an impact on the bills that way. The challenges are awareness. How many of you knew anything about sand and gravel mining until it was on your doorstep? Did anybody have any idea of that kind of stuff? You see a handful of hands. Until it's on your doorstep, we ignore it. We just don't know. Something that happens over on the other side of the state we're not aware of. It's the same thing with the short-term rental issue. Until your neighbor rents out an 8-bedroom house to folks that have a big party every weekend, it's not an issue. With solar, wind, battery storage, until it's in the farm field across the street from your house, it's not an issue. Let me tell you again about my wife. She was a nurse, and she worked coronary care and intensive care. Her passion in life was saving lives and helping people, families get through a loss of life. She did a great job at that. When we get to an issue like this, our passion is saving the Michigan we know and love for our grandchildren. So she didn't really care a whole lot about me working on these issues until Lenawee County is blessed with an excellent road commission. We live in a 150-year-old farmhouse on a gravel road. My wife goes crazy at Christmas. She's got 12 Christmas trees spread all over the house. And anybody live in an old house, you know how they kind of shake and rattle when the trucks go by? A double bottom road commission truck went by the other day, hit the big pothole out in the road in front of the house, and her marble tree came crashing down on the 150-year-old hardwood floors. She didn't care much about sand and gravel mining until that moment. And the imagine of one truck going by is, that's one thing. 100 a day, 200 a day, that brings it home. It makes it aware. So our challenge is making our neighbors aware of what this means to them, whether it's sand and gravel, industrial scale renewables. The other challenge we face is to do a ballot initiative in the state of Michigan. Our folks are telling us it's $7 to $10 million. It appears to me that the folks on the other side are the ones with the money. Whether it's a landowner that wants big rent every year, whether it's a developer from out of state that's taking advantage of the incentives and the subsidies offered by the government in Washington. All the way along, it's an issue of money. Those of us that are opposed, the single financial vested interest we have in this is protecting the value of our properties, protecting the value of the agriculture industry in our part of the world. Deerfield Township is zoned 100% ag. That area was subject to 6,000 acres of solar. That's almost 10 square miles. It would absolutely decimate the agriculture business, the support companies that deal with our farmers. I want to finish with a point that says our group is not for or against climate change. We're not for or against renewable energy. We are for local control of our unique situations. And part of our support, there's a group that is highly involved with us from the western part of the state. White River Township is north of Muskegon. It's on the lake. It's a group of Democrats in the township that wanted to do the right thing. They believed in renewables, thought that was part of what it took to save mankind and save the earth. They enacted local legislation that was very permissive for solar. It's a small township, 10,000 acres. They worked as hard as they could. They paid people to develop the ordinances for them to be friendly to renewables. And in answer, they got hit with a 1,700 acre site within a quarter mile of Lake Michigan, on top of a 1,300 acre Superfund cleanup site they've got. So a third of their land in this township is taken up by the Superfund site and one solar plant that's been proposed. They're strongly opposed to the state taking over local control. I'm going to ask you to hand this stuff, in our case with energy, to the Public Service Commission. How have they done with electric rates in this state? We're almost the highest in the country. How have they done with reliability in this state? We're among the worst. And now we want to hand them our farm ground. There's no restrictions on how close to a lake, a school, or anything else. So help us with awareness. We've got to bring this to people that haven't had it land in their front yard. With petition signatures when time comes for that. And then obviously with the money to be able to fund this effort. Thank you.